So, like, what would one of those be?
So my favorite one for this was we were working with a natural perfumer at the time, trying to develop fragrance materials based on natural essential oils. And the question arose, why do women wear perfume?
Mm-hmm.
And there were a lot of answers. The first one, by the way, is generally they're not doing it for us guys because generally we don't care. And if we do care, we probably don't like it.
Huh.
But the answer was pretty clear. The answer was that when it's applied, it feels good. It produces a positive emotional state when it's applied.
The scent of it, or the actual
The scent.
the scent. Mm-hmm.
The scent. It is, it's inhaled. It's like a food that smells good. It's something that makes you feel good, essentially as you're doing it. And so we took that learning and built products that felt good and smelled good, and also there's a cognitive part to feeling good. That is, if I want you to feel good about something, you have to really believe that what we're doing is the right thing. There's an element of trust that the people that are developing this really have your interests at heart. So we put all of this together and at the same time recognized that most of the products that were out there contained, dangerously outdated chemistry for which, again, just from the standpoint of public health, I had some real concerns as a physician, the fact that they were so widespread. The most prominent of these in this particular group of products is hit the news recently with a storm, which is triclosan.
Triclosan seems to be in so many antibacterial soaps, and people think that this is the way to go, and they're putting it on their babies' hands, their kids' hands, their hands, and what's the problem with triclosan?
So the problem with triclosan has evolved in the professional markets for use in the clinical environment and was never really intended, at least by the FDA, to become so widespread on a consumer basis. So once it became so widespread, we started finding out a couple of things that we didn't know back then. The biggest problem with triclosan is that it's an endocrine disruptor, and it interferes with several different, it's a synthetic chemical that when absorbed into the body, it mimics or blocks hormones and disrupts normal functions. And several of these include thyroid and then the two sex hormones, androgen and estrogen. The key problem here is that because it's so widespread, it is ubiquitous in our bodies. Most children over the age of 7 have it in their blood and urine. It's found in most samples of human breast milk. Mm. And
it's found in our rivers and streams, I understand, as well, and contaminating our fish.
It essentially all goes down the drain,
mm-hmm.
And of course it then ends up in our aquifers and the rivers and streams. The other troubling problem with it, the stuff that goes down the drain, is that when it hits our municipal water treatment plants, what happens, it gets bound to the sludge, which is then processed and sold as biosolids for fertilizer, and is spread on municipal lands and on farmlands, where it ends up going back into the food cycle as well.
Awful. It's a mess.
Well, it's troubling, and the short question that comes up from this is, do we need antibacterial soaps at all?
Mm-hmm.
And while the FDA is examining this, let me put forth the following suggestion, which is perhaps not everybody does, but about a quarter of American households now have someone who has a medical condition to be considered what's called a compromised host. And these are people for whom garden variety colds and flu or gastrointestinal illness out in the community might present more than just a minor inconvenience. And those people do need that would benefit from that extra level of protection, as long as the risk of exposure to the chemistry justifies the benefit. The case with triclosan is it's very clear that the risk doesn't justify the benefit. The potential risks from exposure to this, and we don't really know all of them at this point, include all of these interference with the endocrine system, potentially early onset of puberty, infertility, and a wide range of other things that will become apparent over the years since we've done this experiment on a massive scale. But if you look at the group of the population, for instance, that have a member like that in the household, or people who have young children in the household who are exposed to a fair bit of infectious disease at school, There's a whole group of single mothers for whom if their child is too sick to go to school and they can't go to work, they're fired.
Right,
So,
but those children, you don't want this triclosan to be affecting their hormones. I mean, if they can use something else that's just as effective, it would be just as good, wouldn't that? Isn't that so?
well, that's exactly our premise, that we want to give, when consumers should keep the following statement in mind. Whenever there is a safer alternative to a product that they're using, even if the risks of the other one are as of yet unknown, they should always choose the safer alternative. And as it concerns these soaps, the other thing which people are not aware of is, so 70% of the liquid soaps out there contain triclosan.
Right. So it's really important for people to read labels because I think they're not aware. They just look at these bottles. They look pretty. They're colorful. They smell nice. They need to read. You need to read your labels and see if you see the word triclosan on there. Don't buy it. Also, triclosan's in toothpaste too.
It's in toothpaste. It's in deodorants. It's used as a preservative in a whole range of plastics. It is ubiquitous in the environment. And I have 3 rules for people to keep in mind: read the label again, and read the label again, and make sure that you know what you're buying, because these products, and they're all over the place. Again, toothpaste, soaps, deodorants, all sorts of consumer products are products you use day in and day out, that your members of your family use day in and day out. When you bring these things home, you make every chemical in that bottle part of your life and part of your body and part of the world that we all live in.
That's a very good point. And the thing also to be aware of, I think, is that some of these labels are a little misleading because there'll be a little peel back, they'll talk about the inert ingredients when you peel back the first part of it. So you really have to be a sleuth, and sometimes you have to bring a magnifying glass with you to the drugstore. And you think about you buying this in a pharmacy, you think that this should be healthy, and it's really not.
Nobody cares like you do. And so I urge everybody, if a company doesn't tell you everything that's in the product, then choose a company that does, and send a message to the market that you want to know every chemical that's in them. You want all those components to be thought of, to be chosen very, very thoughtfully, because the implications for us individually, as communities, and as a society of massive contamination with chemicals for which we really don't know the implications of such contamination. This is what we call in toxicology the chronic subacute exposure problem, which is, I can tell you if something is toxic if I give you a lot of it and it gets you sick, or if we give it to some animals and they get sick. But the question of what happens if it's a tiny little amount but it's given over a period of years, or children are exposed over a period of years, which are crucial when crucial parts of their bodies are developing, that's not only a very difficult experiment to do, it's an unethical experiment to do. And so we should always be very cautious that what we're choosing to bring into the house is as best known as possible.